It does. A few interesting things. I'll talk about the Kiwi again. Well, not again. When I start as well, they've Jacinda Ardern has declared that they have what's it called? Eliminated coronavirus.
Really?
That's what I heard only like 15, 20 minutes ago.
Okay. How have they done that?
Well, it's not as good as it sounds, I don't think. But if you have a look at the Kiwi today, that must have been released earlier today. Kiwi versus the dollar is just flying. Also is the Aussie.
Yes, the Aussie is. Yeah, I managed to get into an Aussie trade on Friday. Never trade currencies, but I saw something of the Aussie, and I took a trade on Friday in that.
The Aussie, I'm in the Aussie. I'm in pound Aussie short, euro Aussie short, Aussie long.
So, nice. Yeah, nice. We're all on it.
We should be live on YouTube. We should talk amongst ourselves again still. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new week. I think we're live on YouTube anyway. I'm just checking that out as we speak. Ash, whilst I'm doing that, would you like to pinch the screen if you can?
Sure, mate. Yeah. No problem at all. Yes, I can indeed. Let me just bring my charts up again.
And tell us what we're doing FTSE-wise, I suppose.
Yeah, well, the FTSE's opened up fairly positively so far. Let me just take this screen then 1 second. Share my screen. Oh, interesting. I was looking at a weak gold and I should have taken that trade. Oh, dear. Oh, God. What's happened there? Have I got the screen?
Yep.
I think I have. Things are fluttering about here. I'm not sure what's happening here, but blimey. Zoom's not a bit sticky today by any chance, is it?
It is a bit sticky. Yes.
But, wow, it's just my screens are flashing they're
not here, so
okay. All right, no problem. Maybe it'll settle itself down. Let me just bring in. Jeez, what's going on here? Okay.
G'day, John. G'day, SF. G'day, Fad. G'day, PL. Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, I was going to.
Hi, sweet.
I was going to take this trade on gold earlier on, but I plumped against it. Good morning. Yeah, good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? I was going to take this trade on gold earlier on, but the only reason I didn't is the longer-term picture. And there is a suggestion that we get a little bit of downside with gold. We've had the Bank of Japan announcing some stimulus measures, and that boosted Asian equities. If we look at the Asian equity market, then we'll see that Asian equities have been boosted. I mean, you know, it certainly would suggest that we shouldn't be trading the FTSE short. Looks like gold could continue to see some weakness, maybe off the back of that. It looks to me like equities would be more likely a long play than a short play. Not keen on that particular play myself, but I can't justify the short either. So let's just have a look. This is the Nikkei over the course of the morning, and we have seen continued higher prices. You know, this is the start of the day, and it's just pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed higher. I don't know what's going on with this Zoom thing. My screen's a mess. Hold on 1 second.
Okay, I'm hanging.
Let's try that. I've just restarted the share. Let's see if that helps. No, it doesn't seem to help. Okay, we'll see how we get on. Is my my cursor flipping around all over the place here?
Well, the crosshairs are moving. I don't know about flipping around all over the place.
Oh, okay. Then I'm moving it, but is it breaking in the? Is it kind of flickering as it's moving, or is it just?
No, not really.
No, okay. So you guys are seeing it's just my end. Okay. Well, we're seeing we saw, as I say, the Nikkei push higher. Now that's going to put the FTSE probably in a positive frame here, and but I just still don't like it. You know, we've still got this pattern going on. There are definitely buy signals. There's no two ways about that. There are buy signals in the FTSE. I guess we can't really discount the fact that if the buy signals are there, then the news is there as well. You can see we're right on top of resistance on the FTSE 100, so it's a great place to sell, and this is a sell zone, and you need good news to push yourself into a sell zone. So that is always going to be a factor. But do we really want to sell? I'm not so sure, because the news right now continues to hold firm and continues to be fairly stimulative as well. So there's not really a trade for us on the FTSE. I really want to see it break this channel out. If it does break to the upside, that would change my opinion. And you can see that we're going to be, we're not going to be too far away from price. If we wait for the break to the upside, okay, we're going to lose out on about 50 pips, but at least we would have had some, we'll have some open water to trade into, to actually extend into, rather than where we currently are. Trading this to the downside, well, I suppose if it holds here for long enough and gives us a genuine sell signal, this is the thing, we're in a sell zone with no sell signal, then we could take that trade. But for right now, I suspect we will probably continue to try and push higher, and maybe we do clear this area today, and then we'll have to see where the next buy signal comes in, rather than here. The reason that there's no buy signal here is that now, when we flip to an hourly chart, you may not be able to tell from the price action, but I can tell you that on the hourly chart on this, we are now a little bit overextended. Actually, we got some room to the upside, so there's a pretty good chance that we do continue to extend higher here, and there are some buy signals, I suppose. So if it comes down to this level, I suppose that would be the most attractive area to try and buy into it again. So looking around about 57.90, which is probably about 25 pips away from the current price. So if you guys are looking at it, then you're looking at around about 5,800. The 5,800 level may be something we could look at and see if there's an opportunity there. Otherwise, I'm probably going to be on my hands, mate. I honestly can't see a reason to do anything today. I'm kind of looking at a chart and I'm sort of like going, well, there's not enough. I had a really, really good long look at the data, and I had a good long look at the news, and I didn't find anything that made me jump up and down. Gold was the only thing that I thought was of interest earlier on this morning, and to come down and test a weekly pivot. But my problem with gold is this is the hourly chart, and you can see a left shoulder, there's a head, and there's a right shoulder there. Complex head, because it was also an M topping pattern up there. But there is a head and shoulders pattern. But you only have to flip to the 4-hour chart to kind of look at this and say, do you want to trade this already? And it looks early. So that to me wouldn't be an attractive proposition to try and trade, even though I think that there is a little bit of an hour-on-hour weakness. So it's just not currently mixing. But yeah, when I look through the charts, I wasn't too keen. WTI is a story for me, because I'm interested in seeing whether there might be a trade in the pound CAD on the short side. We were talking about that yesterday in the show, and I hope people heard exactly my thesis on that, which was that WTI needs to hold here. It needs to hold at 1320. It can come down here, no problem. We can have a weak Monday. That's no big deal. But it's got to hold here, and if it can hold here, then we can flip our attention to the NOKI or the CAD and see if there's an opportunity to trade that. Without the hold, then both the NOKI and the CAD just aren't attractive at all. But if they do become attractive, then I would not be adverse at all to be looking at the pound CAD. And sorry, mate.
CAD's not easy for that reason. It's difficult. But if you catch it, you're going to get a good ride on it.
I think you will if you can catch it right. Yeah, there's the trend line on the pound, and you can see that there is some potential confluence around the horizontal level as well. So we are, again, we're in sell zone area with the pound CAD, but just no sell signal. So we don't really have too much that I'm that interested in, mate. It's one of those things that I'll see the market move and I'll think, well, just as I did with gold a little while ago, I'll see the market move and I think, oh, I wish I got into that. But they are all very, very short term, and it's got that Monday feel about it, mate, where you could really get yourself caught off. And not to say there's not money to be made, there always is with the opportunities out there. But are they opportunities that I want to take? Got to say no. And I'm prepared for this week. I'm right on top of it this week. I've done all my research. I'm sat in front of the charts, waiting for the correct signs and signals. And at the minute, those aren't transpiring. So I'm just going to wait until they do. I will,
right,
as they say, let the market come to me, and that's the plan right now.
Sounds like a plan, and doesn't really change that much, to be fair. That's the way we look at things. And
yes.
I better set this pound US dollar breakout.
Okay, yeah, you do that, and then we'll get to some news and data and see where we are with that.
Yeah, got some interesting news, which may not have hit the broader populace at this point, and it's on the Kiwi. I'll tell you about that in just a tick. Righto. So let's go to the pound. And what I'm seeing here is, well, I've already set the trade. So let me give you the levels. We'll be going long at 124.70. Pretty sure that level's 124.70.
Oh, Helen, I'll talk about the gap in a moment.
And we'll be going short at 123.88. So 124.70 is your long entry. Stop for that is 1.2388. And obviously the reverse of that is the sell order at 1.2388 with the stop loss at 1.2470. Okay, now if I'm to analyze the pound today, I can see a couple of things here that are quite interesting. And I really want to get a handle on this. If you have a look at Aussie US dollar and pound US dollar, that's the daily chart on pound US dollar. That's the daily chart on Aussie US dollar. Can you see some similarities there, guys, at all? They're virtually replicas of each other, save for one thing. The pound hasn't broken through the highs yet, and the Aussie has. So the Aussie is well and truly on its way by the looks of things, but the pound is still languishing, but the sequence is still there. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. What has happened on the pound is pretty much what I expected to happen on the Aussie, but it didn't turn out that way. It didn't come down to the monthly pivot. Instead, it just came down and formed a descending channel and, of course, bounced off the bottom of our rectangle. I think there's a story to be told there. And the story probably for me is what I've been saying for weeks and weeks, that the Aussie is due to rally based on, okay, we were more, I won't say completely cushioned against coronavirus, but certainly we had plenty of time to react before coronavirus actually got to Australia, if I can put it that way. And we were able to contain it far better at this stage than any other of the major countries that obviously are major currencies. So I believe that this has got a lot to do with it. And of course, the UK is having a terrible time as well, without question. So I see, apart from even economic factors that go with that, it's just the, the idea around Australia is going to come out of coronavirus much better than, say, the UK, say the States. And New Zealand's in exactly the same boat. In fact, the news I wanted to give you is that New Zealand's Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, has in fact declared today, and I don't know that it was that long ago, and this is unsubstantiated, I've got to say, but it looks to me like the market is reacting in kind. She has declared that New Zealand has eliminated coronavirus. Now, you'd have to look at what that actually means. Certainly, there are still new cases of coronavirus overnight in New Zealand. I think there were 7 from memory. So it sounds an extraordinary thing to say, but I think there are criteria around what eliminated means and what defeated means and what over it and slowing of the curves and all of those sort of things that go along with this. So I think the market's going to react very kindly to that terminology, whether it's an actual elimination of the disease or otherwise. I think the market will react to that kindly. For that reason, I think the Kiwi is in a buy zone in terms of fundamentally, I won't say technically. In fact, I wouldn't be looking to buy Kiwi US dollar today now based on what we've seen. And maybe this is why, or part of the reason why, the Kiwi has put on such an impressive display today. And the Aussie's doing very, very similar, as I said. So there is a bit of a story here, and I'm not sure exactly how that unfolds, but I've got to be a Kiwi bull based on that particular scenario. So I'm looking for potential here to enter. Euro's as weak as lolly water. And based on that, we haven't really seen a breakout here. So Euro Kiwi, I've got to be a bear. And wow, I'd nearly almost like to get in as soon as possible. We are at a support level, of course. The thing is, if this news does hold water and the market gets hold of this, then this will disappear very quickly. You won't get an opportunity for a retest, I wouldn't think, of that breakout area. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. Kiwi CAD's another, but it's gone. You saw the Kiwi's gone against the dollar. What are the Kiwi crosses I've got here? Very, very tough to trade it against the Aussie long, because the Aussie's on fire as well, and you know which one's the better of the two.
That Kiwi, the Kiwi Aussie, and if there was some retracement there, that would be quite an attractive trade. But it doesn't mean that I'd want to trade it down. But I do see, the move down being more attractive than the move up from this particular point. And, I agree with you completely. It's not in the best spot, is it?
No.
But a bit of a move back into that area, then might be an interesting trade. I don't know.
Yeah, it might. I think pound and Euro Kiwi are probably the picks here, but again in terrible positions because we're right on that support level.
Dollar weak today as well.
Sorry, mate.
Dollar's weak today, and explain this to me, that the yen. Sorry, the Japanese government have just basically said that their bond buying program is unlimited and the yen is strengthening. What's that about? And we've had the Nikkei strengthening.
Yeah, no, that's too good for me. You get somebody higher on the fundamental pay grade than me to work that one out, I'm afraid. That's just not up my alley at all. I don't know. Absolutely no idea. And if the Aussie's rallying, and did you say S&P and the Dow were rallying as well, weren't they?
Yeah, the global markets are rallying.
So we appear to be risk on-ish.
Yes.
Let's say. So yeah, yen story. Don't know. It's a bit confusing, I've got to say. So I'm happy to steer clear of that at the moment, but my bias is definitely towards a strong Kiwi right now. Finding that entry is going to be the tricky part, I suppose. Yeah, and the thing for me is I've got to break some rules to actually trade it, and that goes against my grain. So again, what I would like to see, as always, is trading off resistance, not off support, if I'm going to go short. So if that's going to be the case, I've got a long wait for this one. And I don't know if I'm going to get that opportunity. But on the smaller timeframes, I suppose there may be something a little bit later. If we use, say, that trade line there, and we got up above it, hit the confluence of daily pivot, got back underneath it and retested it. As long as I've got enough room to take profit before these lows, that's probably the way I would look to go on pound Kiwi. Euro Kiwi is going to be exactly the same at the bottom of this range, which I haven't really got on my chart there, but it's quite clear. And if we put that in, you can probably go even across to there.
Oh, sorry, mate. Do you know what?
Oh, what?
I was just remembering. Kumar sent me a message the other day, and I couldn't work out how to send it on to. In fact, I'll copy and. Oh no, I can't. It was a little video. I might be able to copy and paste the video. And one of the things that he pointed out is Kumar in the room today. Maybe he's not here today. One of the things he pointed out is that our charts are a bit small. Does everybody think the same thing about that? Our charts are always a bit small, and you can't really see very well.
You mean to blow them up like so?
Yeah, let's blow them up.
Yeah, I can kind of do that after analysis, but you know, if you're trying to give you guys, and this is a great lesson to learn, and I used to do it when I was learning to trade. All I would look at is price and magnified like that. What does that tell me? It tells me I'm in a range and I'm at the bottom of it. Yes, fair enough. But does it tell me anything else? No. It tells me nothing. I've got to see what's going on.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah, okay, so right, well until I squeeze my eyes.
But perhaps what we can do is just explain the context and then go into the type.
How about that, guys? Because what you won't get is the full range of the price action. So if we look at it in a broad sense and then zoom in, I think similar to how you did the analysis yesterday is okay, Jeff. Longer time frames can zoom out and in when we go into shorter time frame. Perfect. Okay.
Yep. Cool.
Jeff and Ash have massive monitors. I don't actually. I don't know how big my monitors are. I've got a lot of monitors, but I haven't got. They're not big.
Mine's not that big. It's only about I don't know.
I don't know what the standards are.
30 inches or something. It's not that big.
Yeah, I think mine's about that too.
I suppose that's big enough. But
four at 30 inches.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, and also he was talking about some sort of actually maybe there was a way he said, "Oh, hold on a minute, let me just see if I can do something here." Sorry to cut you up here, mate, but this is a bit of a learning thing. He was really cool. Oh, I'll tell you what. Oh no, that won't work. Yeah. Okay. Oh no, that's no different actually. Oh yeah, no, there was. Okay, let's say. Where let me just see if I can do this. No, I don't know how he did it. He did something where he zoomed into a section on the chart, which I thought was kind of cool. I'll watch the video. In fact, I'll send you the video, mate. You can watch it, then we can learn something. He's quite nifty on the old stuff.
Okay, cool. I'm happy to listen to anybody who's got any idea on technical things, because I have absolutely zero. I know how to find the zoom button on here, but that's about it. I don't know that we can give the Zoom IDs out. I really don't know. Can we? Can we do that?
I don't think so. We'd have to check.
Yeah, I'll ask the powers that be on that one. I totally get what you're saying though, because it is clearer. I get that. Kevin, thank you. Yes, we'll do that.
Yeah, we should be able to, shouldn't we? Yeah, you guys should be. We should be okay to come into Zoom, and then we just leave it live on YouTube as well. Yeah, we'll ask about that. Yeah, we'll ask about that, Crystal. That'd be kind of cool.
What else we got there?
Sorry, mate. Didn't mean to put you off.
No, you're right. I'm just looking at the questions. That's all good. If I miss something, guys, just bang it in there again. There's quite a few in there, so we'll certainly tackle them. Not ignoring you by any stretch. So my challenge is to get short against the Kiwi today. And the real challenge is, how do I trade here? How do I trade short here? It's against my religion at the end of the day. So let's take a look and give you the reason why it's against my religion. I don't trade short at support unless I've got some resistance there as well. So I don't have a resistance level to trade from, and that's my issue. If I've got a confluence of some kind, I can trade. I'll give you an example of that in Euro Aussie of last week. How I got into Euro Aussie again. Where is Euro Aussie? There. Okay, so we're at support here, right? On Euro Aussie, but we've got a whole lot of stuff going on here. We've come off the top of the range, haven't hit the bottom, and we've been given a lower high with a what colored bar, guys? I keep banging on about this, but it's super important. If you're looking for these lower highs and higher lows, these are the best candles to trade. And that's exactly how I got back into Euro Aussie. We had a false break of resistance going on. At the same time, we had a lower high and we had a break and retest of support. That's kind of a lot of information to give you in one go, but that's exactly how that's panned out. So when I go back to Euro Kiwi now, there, you can see that we've got no false break. We've got a break of support there. So we've broken support here, but we're bang on the stronger support level. So it's really, really difficult for me to convince myself now is the time to go. I'd really like to, but no. I've got to play by the rules, and the rules protect me against losing, and therefore I stay exactly where I am on this one. If I miss it, I miss it. You know, there'll be another opportunity to get into it. Don't worry about that. It won't just go absolutely vertical, and if it does, then so be it. But it won't happen. Kiwi CAD, look at that coming off big time. This could be a CAD little story, isn't it? Looks like CAD's rallying a bit. What is WTI doing? Let me have a look at that.
Yeah, it's drifting a bit.
Okay, still around the 7.66 mark on my chart. This is the cash price, of course. What are the futures, Ash?
The futures. Futures are currently it's 1460.
1460. That's come down a bit too, hasn't it? Wasn't it up 20?
Yeah, no, it has come down, but this is the thing. It's just support. It's just approaching its first potential level of support, and you know there was every expectation that the WTI had to retrace into this area. 1300 is the area that I would want to see it not break below, and if it doesn't break below that point, then I still think that the WTI story is one of interest. I'm not saying we should trade it, but I think we can use it as a barometer to trade the NOKI and the CAD.
Yep, agreed.
So I want to see whether.
Sorry, Matt, you go.
No, I'm just saying that that gives us time. You know, it gives us time to let that develop and see if it can hold the 1300 area on the futures. And if it does, then we can start looking at the CAD with a bit more confidence, I think.
Okay. Do you know how to go into? I think it might be Creator Studio or somewhere like that, into YouTube settings and change the res. Do you know how to do that?
Oh gosh, no.
All right, I think I do. So
yeah.
I'll try and do that because that's a suggestion. That's a suggestion that we do that. When you're next on, I'll try and do that. All right. So to summarize, I guess at this early stage is still Euro weak, still Aussie strong, although I'm a little bit surprised at the Aussie, as I said before. I thought there'd be more retracement, but this looks serious now. This looks like it's really got a bit going on. And again, if you go back to the bigger picture, which I will do, then zoom in, the daily chart probably shows it best because we do have a cycle going on here, exactly the same as the pound. And if I go a little bit wider still, guys, you can see that we've come off the bottom of the channel. And since then, we've put in a higher high, a higher low, higher high, higher low, and now another higher high on the way. And where that finishes is a pretty good question. I can't see a super strong resistance level anytime soon. Maybe there. That's about it. So 66.75 looks to be the P to me, 66.75. I'll be looking to exit a lot of my position at that point, 66.75. So Aussie strong, and that's probably against just about anything, save the Kiwi at the moment. I can't see the Aussie being outmaneuvered by any other currency right now. So I think you're okay with that. If you're not in, obviously we've got now a phase 1, 2, this is phase 3. If that goes to there, I wouldn't advise buying the next lot. I'd advise that there'd be a bigger retracement coming before that happens. Euro week, as I said, Euro pound I've been trying to catch. It's similar. It's similar to the euro itself, euro versus the dollar, in that we are at a support level, but we're a little bit off that support level, and we have come off the top here. The last time we hit a boundary fence, it was off the top, and we have put in that. Did I tell you guys this last week? Gee, I mentioned this candle. I mentioned that candle. Don't know when. Might have been last night in the show. I did, and I didn't look at this morning, and I should have. As I said, this may well be a tradable bar in the morning. What a bugger. I've missed that. That was my chance to get in. So again, low or high, what color's the candle, guys? Those who are paying attention when I talk about these lower highs. White bar, interesting. So I've missed that entry. What a bugger. I don't often get in front of the charts on Monday morning, but I should have. I did. I told, it was last night in the show. I mentioned that candle right there, and that was the tradable bar. Okay. What else have we got? How do we trade this now? Same, guys. Same. Again, we're looking for confluence, right? We want to trade short off resistance only. If we can break out here of the resistance trade line. Okay, I'm coming in tighter. You've got the context now. So if we break out above this level now, the trend line or trade line, call it what you will, it's probably a bit of both, and were to hit the weekly pivot and then find our way back underneath here, this is a 4-hour chart, so it can happen on any chart. Maybe I'll go to the hourly chart, might be a little easier for you to get hold of. So if we got up here, hit the weekly pivot, came back underneath that area and hit the confluence. So retest the confluence of daily pivot and trend line. That would be my signal to go short. It's in a very, very suspect position, however, similar to what I just described on Euro Aussie last week. We're very, very close to support. So the trick here is to get in and get profit before you go through those support levels. That's going to be the trick. And it's not going to be easy. Maybe there's a better trade line up here that will give us that opportunity. Of course, we can't dictate to the market. We can only react off it. So if price does, now this is a better scenario. Let me give you that in a drawing fashion. So price up to here, find the resistance, get back underneath the resistance trade line, this trade line here, then retest at the confluence of daily pivot. Perfect. Now you're talking. We can trade there, but we must take profit before these lows because we don't want to trade through here at risk. Take your profit here and get your risk off the table because the chances are that it will bounce and take you out. Okay. So that would be my counsel on Euro Pound. Why is the big question. I think I'm carrying this through as a bias from last week and probably shouldn't do that. So we'll have a look at the bigger picture now, just to make sure that's that's appropriate. So daily chart, we've last come off the top of the range, right? Have we got a lower high? Yes, we do. And it's a white bar. We missed it, right? I just spoke about that. So I don't have any qualms about short being the sport here. But what we need to see is to trade. My strategy is demanding that I trade short off resistance. Okay. Dollar yen is starting to move again. Well, it hasn't moved much, I've got to say. And look, I've been hanging on to this for how long now? 2.5 weeks. That's unusual for me to be in a trade that long, but I guess of late that has been the case because we have been in a consolidation period for a week and a half. So most of that really has been spent in consolidation. Having a little look at the downside at the moment, the monthly pivot's going to be an issue here, as is this low, which is kind of at the same place. I may just take some more profit at that level if we get there and start to move my stops down. Because what I don't want is a big move up, obviously. So I think it's time to just now have a look at the bigger picture. And if we haven't done this before, this is the bigger picture. So you can see on that range there, I'm vulnerable. And the reason I'm vulnerable is because this is a ranging currency pair right now. And if it goes to the bigger range, then my stop's gone. So I might start thinking that way. And the obvious place to do that is when the monthly pivot or the bottom of this range refuses to yield as support. So if we start coming back here, I want to be out. There'll be another opportunity to get short because that's my bias. But I think this candle here may tell a big story today, or even the daily candle may tell the story. And if I see this come back, I'm thinking, okay, we might look to get out of that. Mate, that's about it for now, I think. Obviously, our pound Aussie still going great. Our euro Aussie still going great. Our Aussie still going great. I got no complaints right now, mate. Everything is pretty hunky-dory.
Brilliant, mate. Okay, well, let's just talk then about a couple of things. Firstly, let's just have a look at the news and data and see what may shift the market this week. Then we will have a look at the pound CAD as a potential trade and what we might need to do with that. And then I just want to show you guys the seasonality and you know, how are you going to start to put your seasonality spreadsheet together as well. Firstly, let's get to Helen's question about the FTSE. Right, so where is it? What is the gap on the FTSE on the chart? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at this. Are we talking about this here? You talking about that gap there, Helen? Just here. Now, how did he do it? So, what Kumar managed to do was get that in there. And then he kind of. No, let's just zoom in here. Are you talking about this gap, though, Helen, here? Yeah, okay. So this was a Trump announcement. So the at the end of the day, Trump actually was speaking. And okay, so gaps. Okay, so gaps are, and you can see that the FTSE 100 is trying to ease again to the upside. This looks pretty good for some further moves up here. Gaps are created when there's no orders. So along all these areas here, there is here. Let me just fix up this line for you. And it's worth talking about gaps a little bit. With with foreign exchange, you'll much more likely see gaps from after a weekend, because it does tend to be a lot more liquid from day to day. But what a gap is effectively is that there's no buyers in this. You know, you can have sellers could have put all their orders in, but if there's no buyers to take up, because remember that there needs to be an equal number of buyers and sellers to move price. So if there's no buyers in this particular place, what they tend to do, what buyers will do, or the sellers will do, is they'll put the orders in. So there might have been buyers all the way up here, but nobody's selling, and nobody willing to sell until this particular price. So that's where we see the first transaction taking place. So a gap effectively is a gap in transactions. So the gap in an order. So there is no available transaction to be done between this point and this point. And gaps have to be seen in two ways. There is the gap and go, and there is the gap and fill. So this is the gap, and with a gap and go, what can happen is the gap acts as a level of support or resistance. So if we come back here a little bit, and I'm going to have to just shrink down my chart. I'm just going to change it to a daily. And we will see this gap here. That gap there. Now that's why this gap now starts to become really important, because this was a gap and go. You know, the market. No, it's said that the market hates a vacuum, and all gaps over time will be filled. Now that doesn't mean it's going to get filled in the next session or even in the next year potentially, but all gaps will eventually be filled, because the market just doesn't like vacuums. It doesn't like these kind of like these price points that that just sit there and just float around. So when you see a gap, then my first thought is, when will price fade back into that gap? Now, as you can see, this is back in March, and this gap still is in existence. But when that gap gets filled, the bears have got a much better green light to start selling off. Until it does get filled, that is just going to sit there. And, you know, it's almost like a kind of niggling itch for the market. So and this is why these price points, and this is why this price point here becomes a bit of a tricky place. We've seen that there is some resistance here, but that gap still needs to be filled. And when that gap does get filled, the bears may well start to get back into the market. So that really is the highest point that I'd want to trade short from. Now, if it breaks through and comes back, then that particular price point will then become an area of potential support. So I'm watching out for that gap and just looking to see whether price can get back up to there. But it is, you know, it's created by a lack of orders. Now you can see with this one down here, this one was a gap and a fill, because on a shorter term time frame, you can see it here. And when that gap does get filled, then this point becomes the level of support and resistance. So you're either looking at this point or this point. And in the same way that I'm waiting for that gap to the upside to be filled so we can move down, when this one gets filled, it's got the green light then to go higher. So it gets filled, gap gets filled, price, you know, they manage to get transactions in between the area, and then the market is allowed to go higher again. So that's really the idea with gaps, and the way you can trade them is that you can sell into them. You know, if you see a gap and you know that most, you know, all gaps get filled, but most gaps get filled within 2 or 3 sessions. Then if you see a gap moving higher, the chances of this coming back and filling the gap before it goes is pretty high. Now, obviously, when we saw this gap along here on the daily chart, that was so emotive. It hasn't had the chance to fill the gap. You know, it was just gone. It was just everybody was selling and selling and selling, and it does show us, you know, how motivated people are when it's unable to fill that gap. That does suggest there is a lot more downside to come. But now it's starting to eke itself higher and grind its way up again. When that gets filled, those orders will be, you know, the market will be a lot calmer about that particular area, and then we might genuinely start to see some further downside. But in some respects, we're almost fading into the gap, so it does become an interesting point to continue buying into. Okay, so Yeah, well, the gap. When you say the bottom of the gap, as I say, you got a gap and go. This is a gap and go, or you get a gap and fill, which is what happened here. That was the gap and it filled, and then it's allowed to go higher again. Obviously, much better when the gap is on confluence. It's a much better area, and this is a brilliant one, really, because if you look at this on these shorter term time frames, then there is a trend line as well that was existing right on the area that the gap was. So there was massive confluence on that particular point there. So gaps tend to appear in stocks more than anything else, and when it comes down to currencies, as I say, you might see a lack of orders over a weekend in a certain area, and that's why from Friday to Monday you'll see a gap. But if you see a gap in the middle of the week on currencies, it's probably telling you something quite significant about that particular currency, and it's probably more likely to be a gap and go. I would have thought. I haven't done the research on that, but I would have thought that would be the case. Okay, so news and data for the week. Now,
there is res, guys. Has it made any difference on 720? Sorry, Matt.
That's okay. Yes, gaps in the oil chart will be very, very important. Yes, they will. They do show us emotions. This is different, though. This is a different gap. If you're looking at WTI, that is a completely different gap. This gap has occurred because it is the futures. I'm looking at WTI FS, which is the futures market. Now, futures markets will have gaps that don't quite fit the bill of the gap and go, because the futures market is effectively, this is the forward contract. And what the futures are doing is trying to say, in the future, we think price is going to be this, where the price currently is at a specific level. So this would have gapped higher because, what they're saying is during the June period, we think price could go here. And that could just roll from that particular point. So the gaps in the futures market are completely different yes, there is a gap in orders, but that's really down to the speculation of where that market might go. So it's not the same as a gap in the currency markets or a gap in the actual price in oil. So you've got to be careful what you're looking at with futures. I'm not saying you ignore the gaps, but you certainly treat them differently. Hey, Orlando, how you doing, buddy?
There we go.
So yeah, treat them differently. Try and ignore the gaps in futures markets. That's what I've done, and I've been caught on that before. When I started trading the FTSE futures, I saw this gap. I thought I'd made a whole bunch of money, and all your broker does is they will if you've gapped to the upside and you are long, they'll pay you that, but they'll minus the swap. You get a swap which is added, and that swap is that point to that point, so you end up flat. So effectively, this price is down here in a way. This chart would be flowing from down that point. Right. So news and data. Let's have a look. News and data this week. So we've got nothing really today. We've had the Bank of Japan out pumping further stimulus into the economy in Japan. We have got tomorrow nothing huge. Spanish unemployment rate might be something of interest, but I don't think that'll be hugely significant and surprising. 10-year bond auction maybe, but not really. The goods and trade balance won't be, because it's not linked to any specific country from what that announcement looks like. Now, this is going to be quite interesting for the Aussie. Can the Aussie continue its move to the upside? And if we start getting CPI figures that are higher, then that is going to allow the Australian dollar to continue its move higher against the basket of currencies. This is the big.
That's going to be an interesting number, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it should be, mate.
Oh, it's quarter on quarter. Yes. Coronavirus, and maybe a little bit of coronavirus in there.
Yeah, I would have thought. I would have thought there would be. Certainly in the UK, we've seen a complete lack of inflation. But let's see what happens with CPI. And interesting, because with the Aussie being linked to the commodity prices. Does the price in gold hedge against the price drop in oil? I don't know. So that could be quite interesting. But obviously, oil is a day-to-day supplement. So the price in gold probably won't have any effect on that, because we're talking about the consumer here. So that could be interesting. Certainly the forecast is for a drop in CPI, and you'd have to say with a drop in the price in oil and energy, that would probably come pretty much in line with the move, not necessarily the number, but certainly looks like it would probably drop rather than gain.
I'll do a bit of homework on that overnight and see what I can come up with.
That'd be great, mate. We have advanced GDP from the United States, and then the FOMC statement of the federal funds rate. Now, this could be interesting. Now, because the Bank of Japan have moved, does that now encourage the United States to move? Now, if they do move, you will probably see the stocks rally further. If they don't move, who knows? That's going to be down to the statement. So we're going to have to look at the statement, and we will look at that on Thursday and see what the FOMC statement was off the back of that particular press conference. So Thursday could be an interesting day for us. Stepping into Thursday, we really will be speculating quite heavily, because now, as I say, the Bank of Japan have moved. There will be speculation on whether the Fed will go again. Will there be some QE? What could happen here, or will they leave things on hold? I suspect we might well get a hold here, mate. I haven't heard any announcements, but I suspect we might get a hold. But let's see what happens Thursday. Market will probably be moving on late Wednesday and into Thursday. Manufacturing PMIs out of China, again, massive. Does this genuinely start taking effect? The previous at 52 just suggests that there wasn't the significant drop that people were expecting. Previous read of the 35 mark. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? From 35 to 52, something doesn't seem right there. It seems like a very strange drop. From a significant low to a pretty healthy number. Comparatively speaking, that's a pretty healthy number. So I don't know what's going on there with the reporting. But anyway, we'll check out that. Check out non-manufacturing PMI. So Thursday is going to be a really significant day. That's going to be 2 a.m. UK time. So that means that on Thursday, we probably will be looking at some trades in the FTSE if we don't get any in before. Main refinancing from the Eurozone as well, and a monetary policy statement. So again, nobody has the ability above really, maybe Powell, Chairman Fed Powell, and Donald Trump aside. Nobody has the ability to move the market quite like what Christine Lagarde will be able to do. And you'll see that if you look at charts of historical moves and compare them to what Mario Draghi's statement date would have been, because it really did start to move when he spoke previously. So that's got a pretty good chance of getting some movement in the market as well. So Thursday looks like a big day, mate. CAD, GDP as well. So can we get a trade in the pound CAD before that announcement? If we can watch out for that. If price is far enough away from where we enter, then we can enjoy that number and see whether it helps any further, or whether it starts to weaken the CAD off, and whether we might have to close out. Chicago PMI is another important data read as well. And then what do we have on Friday? Then we kind of quieten down. China's on a bank holiday. The Swiss are on bank holidays. We've got French, the Italians, all enjoying a bit of wine on the piazzas again. If they do lift lockdown. And don't discard this number. ISM manufacturing PMI, massive drop last time. So even Friday is going to be fairly significant. This number is a lot more forward though, so that's something that we can utilize for future trade. So big week coming up for news and data, mate. Massive week.
Yeah, look, I think under normal circumstances, and I'm not sure what normal is anymore, but I would be thinking exactly the same, and there's bound to be massive moves. What I think unless they're big misses or big beats, I think we're not going to see too much. But I do agree this week looks like being a breakout week rather than what we saw last week, and maybe even the week before, which was consolidation. And God bless its soul, consolidation's just exactly up my alley, and I'd like it to last for another 6 months. It'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
About that. I've got a couple of questions on some pairs. Do you want me to have a look at them now? Are you about done for this week?
Well, all I was going to mention as well is if we're going to try and enter this pound CAD to some downside.
I was on the pound CAD too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a really good shout that the pound CAD comes down. You can see that we are at a level of resistance and putting in a current bar that would suggest some downside. This is an evening star, and this is a cracking looking evening star as well. Hugely negative. Evening star is a 3-bar pattern. This is bar 1. This is bar 2. This is bar 3. Now, bar 3 is the significant bar. Bar 1 pushes higher into a resistance area. Bar 2 is like a shooting star. Now, the classic evening star should really look like this. Where are we at? Here we go. It should really look like this. So you get bar 1 moving higher, and I'll do this on the OHLC. That's your bar 1, which is this, let's say. Bar 2 would gap beyond the highest point, so it should be a shooting star, and a shooting star is effectively a gap in the market. And it doesn't really matter on the color of this, as long as it ends up closing lower down the bar. That would be bar 2, and then bar 3 starts to come back down again. The gap down again is even better, but it's not an absolute essential. But bar 3 does that. Now, the significant thing about bar 3 is that it has to close at least below the 50% range of bar 1. 50% closing range of bar 1. So it's got to. So this would be around about 50% of the closing. You know, that's the open and close. So around 50%. The lower, the more significant. Now, this one at the minute is engulfing the low of bar 1. So that is hugely significant. So if this one does, opens near the high and ends up closing near, anything below 50%, that ends up looking, that is an evening star. And the morning star would be the opposite to that. Now, with currencies, you don't tend to get the gaps. Yes, you would on a Monday morning, but you wouldn't at this particular time of day, or unlikely anyway. But we can still treat this like an evening star. Bar 1 pushes us higher. Bar 2 shows some slowing in the market. That's the significance of bar 2. Now, the good thing about the evening star, the classic evening star, is the gap. So already there's the chance for the gap to be filled. And then if it goes beyond that and you don't get the gap and go, that is suggesting something quite significant has changed in the market. Now, we've still got another 5 minutes before this bar completes, and it could end up right up here. And if it does end up there, then that's actually more of a bullish signal than a bearish one. But anything sort of like, below this point here is going to start looking like an evening star. So so we have the look of an evening star happening on the pound CAD. So that's the first point of information that we've got some weakness up here. Do we trade it? No, we don't. What we're going to do at this point, and I'm going to have to make these charts just a little bit smaller and flip to a 15-minute chart, just so you can see. What we have here is a trend line. Now, this is still in buy zones, right? This is still in buy zones and buy modes. And until it breaks down the trend line, and more significantly breaks down the pivot, the weekly pivot, then we've got nothing to do here. Nothing to do. All we've got is a signal, an indication that this may well weaken and it may well give us a trade. So we are going to wait now for this one to break down, come below the pivot line and come below the trend line down here, come back up again, then take a look at it and see if we can get some sort of reversal signal. That will not only create a resistance level here, it will create a resistance level somewhere near the trend line. It might pop up a little bit further, but as long as it kind of starts coming and closing below the weekly pivot, that's fine. But it will also give us a head and shoulders on the hourly chart. So there's going to be a few things here that would suggest that that the pound CAD is going to be a market that we can trade short. But let's let it develop. Now, this is probably going to take, so just to give you guys an indication, I wouldn't be trading this on a 15-minute bar. I want to trade it on an hourly because it looks to me like we might have some significant moves for a period. So if we wait for this on the hourly, trend line still in resistance on the hourly. It's quite steep, but it's still there. If we trade this on the hourly, that means I need at least 1 hour down, wherever that closes, and then 1 hour back, minimum. You know, it might be more than that. But what that means is that we can, and there's our resistance. So if it goes beyond, even better. Then we can see if we can get a third bar that maybe does something like that, and then we can trade that. So that's what we'll look for. 3 bars, but minimum 2. Now the minimum 2 means that this first bar closes more in this area here, you know, but below the weekly pivot, and then we can trade that. So it is now 11 o'clock here. So, but you know, nothing before 1 o'clock is going to give us a trade here. Now, remember, we're looking at data from Canada this week, so it might not even be today. You know, we can just let this play out. But I would suggest, just to make sure that if you've got nothing else to trade today and you're interested in this particular trade, I would suggest you step away from your computer, set yourself an alarm for 2 hours, come back and have a look at this, or an hour 45. Come back and have a look at this and see what it looks like. And if it looks good to you, trade it, and trade it short, obviously. Stops can go at the highest point, and the entry can go anywhere on the bar. You could trade the bar, but I don't see why you would. I really don't see what the benefit of trading the bar would be when you could have a stop line up there and trade a resistance bar. That area doesn't seem that far to me before you can potentially take some profit. You know, that's going to lead us pretty much near the daily pivot. You could take profit there on the first half, or you could take profit there on the first half. Make your trade safe, and then you can slide your stops above the what would have been a potential entry bar. So that's a potential plan anyway there, mate. So we'll see what goes on. Before you take this trade, just check on your WTI. Make sure WTI is stable before you take the trade. If it's tanking, if it's below the 1300 level on the futures, forget it, because you kind of want some correlation between some strength in oil or some relative strength in oil when you take a trade with a CAD. Okay. What do you got then, Jeff? Sorry about that. So
no, sorry, mate. All good. Good education. I like it. I'll give you my interpretation of that very, very quickly, and it's not dissimilar to yours. So it may well be interesting for the guys to just have a look at, pardon me, the different way we are looking at that. This here is pound CAD, and this is the 4-hour chart. Now, the one thing two things I see here. And one of them is a descending channel that's sitting there. I won't put, it's not perfect. Well, I'll put it in if I talk about it, I might as well put it in. But it's in there somewhere, right? And we've just bounced off the bottom of it. And we've bounced off a confluence area of monthly pivot. We've smashed through the daily pivot. We've smashed through the weekly pivot. And now we're retesting that area, the weekly pivot that is, and a resistance trade line. My expectation would be this, that we will go to the top of the range and then peel off it and maybe go back to the bottom of the range. And that's when I'd be starting to look for the short. That said, if that doesn't happen, then what we can look for in the first instance is what we're seeing right now. We're seeing a potential false break of this trade line, and we're coming back underneath the weekly pivot. So my way to interpret this, and I'm now pleased we've got a close below the weekly pivot. That's pretty cool. If we now get a buying bar that comes back and retests this level here, and even better still, this level here. So if we came back and retested like 174.94, and if we close there, even better still, because then we can set a short underneath that bar, take our profit or first profit at daily pivot, take our second profit at monthly pivot, and if we're fortunate enough to go through the bottom here, just let it rip for the third part of the trade. If we do go through the bottom, then you might want to scale back into this as well. So two things I see. One is the potential for this to go shortly, right? I'm on an hourly chart. If this does go up here and do exactly what I've asked it to do. But you want to trade that at very small risk because of the first scenario I pointed out, which is We've come off the bottom of the range. We're probably headed towards the top of the range. If that happens in the next hour, happy days. We don't have a decision to make until we come back inside and then look for a lower high. So very, very similar to what you've described, Ash, but I think there may well be an opportunity to trade this on a very small risk, very small stake if we do get this bull bar now. We shall see. Now, I've been asked to have a look at Kiwi Swissy for a long, I think it was, on, or was it just a comment? This was SF asking me earlier, I think. What was it, SF? Oh, question mark. Okay, no question mark for me. It's clear what's happened. You can do one of two things here. You could actually place a short right now underneath that bar, the breakout bar of the range, if you were so inclined. Because of what I've described to you and Jacinda Ardern doing, I think this is likely to keep going. That doesn't mean it will. This is a clear opportunity to trade a false break off one bar. Now, this is going back to school again, and really we haven't got time in this session to do that. But if somebody reminds me, I'll try and tackle it tomorrow. There's two ways that I trade a false break. One is off a single bar, and the other is off 5 bars, or at least 5 bars. And that's what I've just tried to describe to you off pound CAD. Looks like I need to spend a fair bit more time on false breaks because a lot of people are asking that question. But as far as I'm concerned, the way for me to trade this currency pair at the moment is that way. Trade it as a potential false break, because if it comes back to here, then the bulls aren't in charge at all here, and they don't really want to go further than this level. It is a previous high, as you can see. If you have a look at the daily chart, it's also the top of that range and a key level, which was a gap before. So despite what I've heard today about the, what did I call it, elimination of coronavirus in New Zealand, which really should. And don't forget, Swissy is probably what it is. It's one of the weakest. Euro and Swissy are the 2 weakest currencies this month to date. And we've got, what, a couple of days left. So on that basis, you've really got to be thinking this keeps going. And we're getting higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. Went into the range, broken the range. But that's not the way I would trade this. I wouldn't trade it as such. I can't trade long here, as I continue to say. It's just beyond me to do that. We're above DR2 to start with. We haven't had a test of the daily pivot. It's just not on my radar to trade long from here, despite the fundamental bias that I have. So potential, if you want to trade it very, very small risk again. There's the potential for a false break here, but bear in mind that news is quite relevant. So my real counsel is don't do anything. Just wait and see what happens. But if you really must think tradability, the tradability side of me is saying this is a short, not a long. But you definitely want to be taking profit here and profit here. That's Kiwi Swissy. The other one was Dollar Swissy. And you were looking for a buy here, I think. And it was, who was asking me that? Jimmy, I think, Jimmy. Okay, let me look at Dollar Swissy. Is that the only, I thought I had a drawn up chart on Dollar Swissy. Maybe I do on, you guys are on the wrong account today too, by the way. You're getting a full treatment. There you go, that's my analysis chart. So for exactly the same reason as I've just described to you, I want you to tell me, guys, I've had a break of a trade line and I've come back and I haven't closed underneath that trade line yet. Which way do you think I want to trade here? I can see answers pouring into the room, not one. So what are we looking for, guys? Every single time we come off the top of a range, what are we looking for? We're looking for either a lower high or the signal that the break is false. Yes, I totally see this. And in different circumstances, I would definitely be inclined to go long here. but it's not different circumstances. Two reasons. One is, yes, we've had the break and retest of the trade line, and I get that. So the potential for this to go A, B, C is definitely there. Are we trending, guys? Is this in a trend? Is this an uptrend? So, not on the bigger picture, no. Not on the smaller picture, no. Apart from if you go right down into maybe 5-minute, 30-minute charts, maybe 15-minute charts, where you're really getting, I guess, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher high, higher low. So that's there, but we're bound by a range here, and that's the key to this. There is an untested daily pivot above us. That's likely to change at some stage today. When? No idea. Wish I knew that. That'd be really cool. But I can't trade this at the moment. I'm seeing the potential for this just to go up and down in the one spot, to be fair. But the only direction I'd want to trade it is short. But to trade it short, I've got to come underneath that trade line and retest it. So there's no trade there for me. So as far as the long's concerned, I definitely see the reason why you would want to go long here. But to me, it's not the right place to go long. But if you've got a reason, and maybe 2, 3, 4 reasons, then absolutely take the trade. I don't, and therefore I can't. Okay, hope that helps, guys. Have we been triggered on the pound long or short? Answer, negative, good buddy. Or have we? Looks like we have. We have been triggered long, okay. What was the entry? La 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 la. Hourly chart was, that can't be right. What was the entry, guys? I can't remember the entry level. I'm on the wrong chart. That's why. It's all right. Wakey, pound, US dollar there. We haven't been triggered. Okay, all good. We're in the middle. Kind of thinking that looked funny. The range is 3mm. What's 3mm? Range on what? Oh, dollar yen, I bet. Yeah, okay. 3 million miles? Is that what that means? Look, I want to explain something to you. Sorry, mate, was that you?
Yeah, I think that's a Proclaimers song.
3 million miles, isn't it?
Didn't he walk
500 3 million miles? They may well, who knows? It would have been a drunk song, I think, if that were the case. Which I can kind of relate to. That's all good.
Oh, mate, I've got a new love for the Proclaimer. Very political, a lot more political than I realised.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to have a listen then. I'm into that sort of thing. So that range that I spoke of before, which is, very, very infant stage, if it does develop, is 3 million miles, 220 pips. That's nothing. Nothing at all. Let me show you what can happen, guys. Daily chart. Actually, let me go to the weekly chart. It's far more graphic. In 1 week, we can go from here to here, 700 pips, no problem at all. In 1 day, this is the cross we're talking about, right? In 1 day, we can go 400 pips. So is 300 pips such a stretch for the range? That's the kind of question you probably need to ask yourself. So no, that's not a big stretch at all. We can do that, very, very easily. I've got to say that this is pre-coronavirus, right? This is coronavirus, first wave, and we've now settled down. That's very true. But do we know what's happening around the corner? No, we don't. And if coronavirus wave 2 comes, we're testing those levels again. So my point is, don't think for 1 second, because we are way, way, way down here, that we can't be way, way, way back here in the blink of an eye. It's all things are possible. And I think that's the takeaway in trading the markets. Don't think for 1 second it can't happen. No matter what you think, the market will surprise you every single time. And you know, this kind of thing happens rarely. I've got to absolutely underline that. In fact, this has never happened before, this particular circumstance, but certainly these ranges have happened before. So yeah, don't think it can't happen. It certainly can. I think I've given you all my analysis for the day, and I don't think there's really anything more to say. There's no entries, obviously, at the moment. We're cruising along nicely, but watch those Aussie pairs. Watch those Kiwi pairs in particular. I'm really keen. This is a great opportunity here, I reckon. If we can find a false break off resistance, then forget Aussie Kiwi, don't trade Aussie Kiwi. I love the fact that Kiwi's pulling back. I can't trade the Kiwi versus the dollar today because it's already gone. But those two others, Euro Kiwi and Pound Kiwi, I think are excellent opportunities to trade short. But again, you've got to trade, in my strategy, you've got to trade short off resistance and off a confluence even better. So here's your opportunity. This could be the best one, Pound Kiwi. If it comes up to here, gets back along there, a couple of candles, back underneath and retests it, then you'll find me going short. It is Monday and we've had a lot of action so far. So I'm not considering that that's an extreme possibility, but if it's there, it's there. Guys, I did change the resolution to 720. Did it make a difference? Pound yen, is there a false break and retest of the downward trend line? H1, have a quick look at that. Where have I got a pound yen chart? Pound yen, come on. Really? Got to have one. There it is. Hourly chart. Okay, what have we got? Haven't analysed this yet today. Let me go a little bit wider to start with. Okay, so we've come off the bottom of the range. We are looking for a higher low, yeah, to trade it long. 4-hour chart. Not really giving me anything. It's ranging. 1-hour chart. Okay, let's put a few trade lines in. There's one there. And there's probably one down the bottom here, the only two relevant ones that I can see anyway. So the question is, from Shukri, hi Shukri, retest of the downward trend line. Yes, definite possibility, and it would be a great setup. So what you're saying, Shukri, is this, I believe. If I'm wrong, please let me know. But what you're suggesting is if price comes back under here and then retests that level, the confluence area of trade line and weekly pivot, you've got an entry short here. High risk here, lower risk here to enter, yeah? The issue you'll have is that level there. So you really want a tighter entry to get you a TP1 before you hit that pivot. Is that what you're looking at, Shukri? Jimmy Raymond at Jimmy, stand corrected. Not sure what that's about. 500 miles. Yep. Range is 3 millimeters on the. Okay. Is that the way we measure ranges on the phone? 3. I love it. Thank you, Crystal. That's a new way to trade. I like it. No real change for Raymond. Try change resolution on your screen. My screen. Oh no, can't do that. Yes, correct. Waiting for 2 hours. Yep. Perfect, Shukri. Excellent. Well spotted. I like it. Hope it pans out for you. And now that you've mentioned it, I'll have a good look at it too as the evening goes on. We'll probably have a yak about that one, if I can remember, in the US session. I don't know if you're part of that, but sounds good to me and it looks good to me. I'm on board. We do have, just to back that up a bit, a little flag pattern sitting there as well. So that won't hurt either. Your screen resolution. Okay, yes, SF. Mate, that's about me, I think.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm the same as you, mate. I'm the same as you. I think that I'm pretty much done here too. I just don't see anything nice to trade. I've looked through all the shares as well. I just went through every single stock on the FTSE 100, and there's a couple that look vaguely interesting, but the vagueness of it is kind of off-putting. Unilever I like for some downside. Carnival I like for some downside. But market's buoyant. Do I really want to be trading short in a market which is buoyant? I don't see. I've looked through a lot of news and data. We've got Boris Johnson currently speaking, and he said that the UK there is evidence that the UK has gone beyond its worst, and the coronavirus looks to be leveling off. He says real signs now is showing that the UK is passing through the virus peak. So it doesn't look to me like there's too much negativity out there, and that's kind of yeah.
Sorry, mate. When you
I was just saying that's putting me off. That's putting me off trading anything short, even though I'm seeing some. But is the thing. The setups are vague. I think it's okay to take a vague setup if there are other factors that show some evidence. But the evidence today is that the market is fairly buoyant. Even when it comes down to the barometers, the current barometer in the for the FTSE 100 is that 89% of stocks, in fact, all that 88% of stocks are in positive territory. So nothing for me to do, mate. I'm not trading this long. This market still is struggling to get through this level. I'm not trading it short because it's trending to the upside, albeit at a sell zone. The CADs, the pound CADs, looks like it might take a little while. So I am taking the day off. That's it. I'm not taking the day off. I'll be back for the US session, but taking the UK day off, if you like, the UK session. Doesn't look to me like we're going to get any movement.
Right, bud. Shukri, just back to you. Don't forget, we're still looking for a higher low here, right? So this is not a definite. We have to see the setup. It's not a bias, definitely. The bias is long. So if it does set up, you have to take that into consideration as well. But if the setup is there, I'll be taking it too. I'm on board. Don't get me wrong. But I won't be trading into the daily pivot without profit. That's number one. And number two is we're still looking for that higher low to go long, don't forget. Okay, so we're against our bias. That doesn't mean we can't trade, but we have to trade at very low risk, that's all. Yeah. So I just need to point that out to you.
So we might have a trade later on, but it doesn't look to me like there's anything to do right now. So let's come back in the US session. It's only a few hours away. That should give us a little bit of chance to develop and see what how the US feels about the stock market. But you know what? There's a chance. There's a chance. Even though I'm looking ready for the short, but there's a chance that we get a short-term buy signal and we take a little long in the market by the end of today. So. Let's see what we got, mate. Let's see what happens later on, but it needs some developing anyway.
Okay, Raymond, is that actually a thing? Can someone test that, please? If you find on the Zoom window, which I guess is, is this for me, is it? Oh, okay, I thought it was for you guys. Zoom ID can normally be found in the Zoom window while you're transmitting or receiving. Okay, so if you're receiving, you mean you've got to be in the Zoom room, or you can get that off YouTube? Copy video URL. I can see the Zoom. No, I don't see anything there. I guess you're referring to us guys. We've got to be. It can't be you guys. You can't do that from YouTube, for instance. You've got to be in Zoom.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to get.
Yeah, no, we understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, because the good thing about getting those eyes in the Zoom room is that we could actually, somebody could come on maybe share some charts with us as well, which would be great. We could, analyze what people are looking at, which would be fantastic. To be honest, I'd like to do that in the US show, but unfortunately, we don't have Zoom on that one at the minute. But if we can migrate over to that, or work out how to do it on GoToMeeting, that'd be fantastic.
So, Raymond, to answer your question, we would love to do it, and will do it if it's not humanly possible, because we know it's possible. But we have to have permission to the people who own the Zoom account, which is Actions to Wealth, of course. And I don't know why they would not allow that, but I'll find out for you before tomorrow. Okie dokie. Righto, we are done.
Great stuff, mate. Okay. Well, thanks very much as always, mate. Yeah. Gosh, it was, we got on a bit longer than I thought we would today. But yeah, I will also catch you later.
Yeah, you'll definitely catch me later. And those of you who won't be in the US session will catch you same time tomorrow. Ash, what's that?
No, we're going to be here, same trade time, same trade channel at 5 to 8.
That's a date. Don't be late. See you later, guys.
See you, guys.